Hello and thanks for checking out TheChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello Canadian MJ friends, what an absolute wild day today. Huge opportunity for those that had cash around, and certainly for us short-term traders. So we were looking for the oversold bounce on APHA. We got it. Market psychology had a lot to do with this setup and being prepared for this move. I'll talk about that in depth, going over some of these individual trades as well and the setups for today. So first things first, just to touch back on the video from yesterday, number one, we said if you have not sold APHA at this point, you're not selling down here. We got a bullish reversal, 3 gap down pattern, gap down, gap down, gap down. Doesn't mean on that day that you have to bounce, but you look for the follow through after the 3 gap down bullish reversal pattern, because that shows us the bears are exhausted to the downside. And we had the absolute perfect storm in terms of what SPY was doing today and in terms of what the shorts and the drama, the fundamentals that are going on. I'll talk about that a bit as well. But first things first, congrats to the bulls. Huge close up at the high of the day, huge bull volume. It's all about perspective. Short term, shorts are covering. We knew shorts would be covering. The shorts knew that they would be covering today, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But we're looking for a lower high on the daily time frame. We cannot lose sight of the bigger picture on all of these names. Huge day for a bounce, yes. We still need another 50% move from where we stand to get to the last daily lower high. So we are absolutely anticipating a daily lower high to form, and we are absolutely anticipating a great short opportunity. And I personally have never shorted APHA in my life. I've never made 1 penny on bearish APHA action. So just want to be very clear. You know, people are accusing me of trying to influence the market. I've shorted CGC, I've shorted MJ the ETF, I've shorted TLRY through puts. I have never shorted APHA, and I never will, because Fidelity doesn't make it easy to do so. But if you are looking to trade APHA, you're looking for a bearish entry or a lower high on the daily time frame. So what were some signals today? What were some trade opportunities? First things first, on the 5-minute time frame this morning, we had the usual in terms of the opportunity first thing in the morning. So I bought this morning and made a quick flip, nothing really significant. Bulls didn't really get a whole lot of follow through. And then I played this 5-minute equilibrium. We had the low of the day, the high of the bounce, higher low, lower high at 534, and then a higher low down here at 523. And this is actually the Canadian ticker. I want to use the US ticker because that's what I was trading. Bear with me. So on the US side of things, this is what it looked like. So there was opportunity in the first 10 minutes. Again, we see opportunity in the first 10 minutes the last few days in a row, with shorts initially covering. And here's the 5-minute equilibrium. Low of the day, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, higher low. Bull break was 398. So I made an entry on that break of 398. I got filled at $4. Had a pretty decent position, so I just did my usual scale out game. I was scaling out 10 cents, 10 cents, or I should, every 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents into thirds. And then on this big bull move up, I had already exited because I'm not going to be greedy playing against the downtrend, but I hopped back in for another 10-cent flip on the way up, just being real quick, lock it in a couple minutes, get back to all cash, and wait for the next clear setup. So did that a few times. I ended up trading APHA 6 times today, and that ended up being well over 20 orders because I enter and then I exit as I scale out. So after that, I was patiently waiting. I flipped on this consolidation and a little bounce in there. Again, just going for little 10-cent scalps. And then as I could see the setup that was forming here, it was very clear to me to be looking for an end of the day bull run. And I was watching the 15-minute time frame, and I said, all right, we have the high of the day, the low of the pullback. We're watching for a 15-minute equilibrium. This is a cup and handle pattern. This is a textbook cup and handle pattern where you have the left side of resistance, healthy consolidation, inability to break the left side of resistance, bull flag, and then huge breakout. So the perfect storm aligned here. And we had the mindset to be buying. First things first, let's establish the scene. We know the shorts are coming out with more information in the afternoon. That's a known fact. The market prices it in. It doesn't know what the information is going to be. If it's a bombshell in terms of very significant fundamental findings, then the market's going to dump. But if it's anything less than that, the market is pricing this in to a certain degree. The market did react bearish on that initial pullback, and we were looking to be buyers on that after the market digested it a little bit. So we wanted to wait about 10 minutes. I saw an ask show up on the US side of things at about $4.50. And at $4.50, a giant ask showed up. I jumped to the chat room and I said, whoa, something's good. I was about to type and point that out, and then I saw that someone had already posted version 2 is out, part 2 is out. So that made sense. They were entering bearish at 450 and releasing that news. So I said to myself, all right, there's our reaction. I'm not expecting much downside. I'm looking to be a buyer here. If we get back over that 450 mark, and it was something like 120,000 shares on the US side of things, so it was a significant amount, and we were looking for the price to get back over that level, I was going to be a buyer because that told me the news had been digested and the market was shifting. And you better believe that we were getting, the bulls were, the shorts were covering as they're firing bullets. So these short groups comes out with information, that's their ammo. They're covering as they are releasing that ammo. They're not releasing everything that they have and then saying, oh, now we better cover. They're covering in reaction to that. So after their news came out, they know they've got nothing left, right? So they're going to be covering as well, and the bulls are going to be looking to buy because anybody that's going to have sold at this point has probably already done so. So we had the shift in momentum. As soon as 450 broke, I made another entry, exited, again, small profit, waited for the setup, and at the end of the day, right about here at 2:30, I could say, all right, I've seen this setup before. The bulls have momentum in their favor. The bulls have nothing to fear short term. The only fear is getting halted for an investigation. That's a very low risk. It's a risk we absolutely need to be aware of and factor into our decisions, but it's a very low risk of happening tomorrow or, at any given point in time. The bulls have an ace up their sleeve. They have this report coming out from APHA. This is another known event that the market is going to price in. So at that point, as soon as that news is released for part number 2 from the shorts have nothing left and the bulls have something left. That's a complete shift in psychology and momentum in the market. So we then look for what would the bulls be best case scenario into the end of the day. A new high of the day, obviously. We consolidated very healthy, very low volume. SPY bulls at the end of the day, you could say, hey Dan, if you have a bullish position in APHA, what's the best case scenario for what SPY would do? Go ahead and throw it up on the chart. And I couldn't make it any more picture perfect than that. We just had a complete huge breakout with a 1% move in the last 45 minutes of trading, and that absolutely magnified the momentum and the strength of the APHA bulls here at the end of the day as well as they poured in that volume. The bull break, in my opinion, would have happened regardless, but this just was extra momentum going forward. So in the chat room at 2:36, I pointed out what was standing out to me. I expect a strong close for APHA, whether that means we break the high of the day now. Again, where were we standing right then? We were near the high of the day. So we're either going to break the high of the day now, or we're going to need to consolidate first. Who knows? But I'm looking for a new high before the close. So we got that brief consolidation, then the breakout. I was just sitting there waiting with a big order. I was going to go very big on this end of the day move and ended up doing that. So I entered initially, I was watching just the bid in the ask, and 484 was a little bit of a stubborn resistance at the end of the day. Right around here is when 484 was tough resistance. We broke it. I entered a position. I entered 60% of my position, and then I entered on the bull break of $5, and I market bought right before $5 broke, so I didn't get stopped into the slippage on the shorts that would cover on a $5 break and the bulls that would have a stop buy on that break. So I ended up with a full position at around $5, and I exited on the way up, and I exited in the 530s. And I was saying, don't be greedy here. We're running extremely strong. It's a good idea to lock in profit. I locked in profit a little bit early because, again, I could not anticipate SPY absolute perfection for the bulls into the end of the day. And I have no regrets about locking in my profit on the way up. Absolutely not. But we were all ready for that bull move. And as soon as you break $5, that's just the switch flipping. And you can obviously see by the volume, that's exactly what happened. So the bounce far exceeded the 30 to 40% move that we were looking for. It ended up being about 55% from the low. But again, just to keep everybody in perspective, the daily chart is very likely to form a lower high in the $6 to $7 range. And the hourly time frame is obviously very overextended at this point. We don't even have an hourly higher low. This entire move was coming off the bottom. Keep in mind, the market is good at pricing things in. It priced in the short information that was going to be coming out. It's going to price in the APHA. This right now at the end of the day is pricing in to a certain degree the APHA response that's going to be coming. I don't know when it's coming, whether it's going to be early next week or tomorrow, but this is the market pricing it in. So don't expect a huge, significant bull move in reaction to that report that's going to come out or that rebuttal, because that's what today was. So we'll probably go up in the short term when it comes out, but don't expect it to last very long because, again, the market is smart and it's going to price it in. So what to expect tomorrow? We'll see if we get a gap up open after hours. A little bit of profit taking is going on, not significantly. We're down about 10 cents. The next key resistance is 668 and then 691. We're going to be watching those levels. Again, SPY and the sector overall had an impact. There were correlations throughout the day with CGC and, of course, CGC to SPY. And APHA did its best to break that correlation at the end of the day, but I do expect it to sink back up. And the day that we had for SPY, again, watch my video for the S&P 500, but big time bullish reversal candlestick on big volume. We did break key weekly support, but the bulls quickly turned that around and bounced. We are still going to be looking for SPY to set a daily lower high as well, similar to what we're expecting for APHA. So at this point, the only risk that the bears are worried about, or I should say that the bulls are worried about on APHA is that, are these questions that have been raised enough to capture the attention of regulators? That is still a risk. Again, it's a low risk. That's why I'm still day trading APHA. I calculated what's my risk. If I trade APHA and I'm in a position for 15 minutes during the day, I'm at a less than 1% risk in terms of getting stopped out. I'm not even going to go into that math. It's not important, but there's very low risk of it happening, but it's a possibility. So going forward, what do we need to change the trend? The weekly trend is not going to change anytime soon. We're going to set a weekly lower high on this bounce. The daily trend could change sometime in the next 2 weeks. We are anticipating a lower high, but the stronger the bounce, the more space the bulls will have to form a higher low after we do top out. And then if we form the higher low and higher high, that's the daily bullish reversal. And then we would zoom out to the weekly and look for a weekly lower high to form. So that's what we got for APHA going forward. I'm going to be a less aggressive bull going forward because this is the move that we were looking for in terms of the scales flipping and some of that overextended move to the downside being, what's the word I'm looking for? Being fixed to a certain degree in terms of market, reacting to the bearish news. You get to a point where everybody that's going to have sold has sold, and the bears had nothing left in terms of their short thesis. So that's when the scales flip. So a lot of psychology mixed in there in terms of what to be anticipating for the market. CGC, gap down day for buying, and this is the US. I actually want to look at WEED today just because I want the more information. We have an extra day of trading. It's a daily inside bar, and you don't see that if you look on CGC because we don't have any data from trading yesterday. So daily inside bar, a break of 37.66 is bearish, a break of 41.03 is bullish tomorrow, and the hourly time frame, I want to see how extended we are. We did consolidate and establish support at 39.49. If we break 39.49, that's an initial short-term red flag that consolidation is coming. But as far as the daily chart goes, anything under 46.42 is just a lower high. So on these bounces, we are anticipating lower highs are more likely to form than not. That being said, again, the stronger the bounce, the more likely a higher low can form after the bulls do tire out on this bounce. So we'll see if we can get another day of follow through. The bulls must follow through to give some kind of hope for the potential of a daily trend change. And we have some solid volume on these weekly candlesticks. Only one trading day left to go, but it is going to be the highest volume week in about 3 or 4 weeks. So again, the momentum in the short term has shifted. The momentum in the mid and long term has not. So it all depends on what your perspective is, what your trade strategy is, and whether you're in it for a swing trade for multiple weeks or whether you're just looking for, day trades. So inside bar on watch tomorrow for WEED, ACB, and we're going to look at the Canadian tickers for all of these names here. But ACB, bulls showed up just like everybody else in the sector. And again, this is an example of the SPY correlation being favorable. And the reason for that is because we had such a big gap down open on SPY, and Canadian MJ did not gap down in response. We got that middle ground that we were anticipating from the video yesterday. We said that Canadian MJ was likely to open higher, and of course US MJ is going to see the gap down open as they kind of reach a middle ground on where we're going to start the day. The fact that SPY was so oversold to start the day, we don't see correlations with the futures trading of SPY to get to that point. So SPY dropping to the gap down open point isn't dragging down the sector. We're starting already dragged down on SPY, and with Canadian MJ where they were pretty much yesterday's trading. So when the SPY bounce gets going, that's when we have a favorable bullish correlation, because it's almost like the Canadian MJ bulls have a head start. They're where they were yesterday. SPY is a lot lower, but they're both moving up at the same time with that correlation. So it was an ideal scenario, again, for everybody to bounce, because SPY pulled off its hourly oversold bounce. SPY's hourly RSI was down in the teens, so we know that oversold bounces are not going to be too far away when that is the setup. So ACB, anything under 787 is a lower high on the daily. From where we closed, we still need over 10% to break the daily lower high pattern. The volume is encouraging for the bulls today across the board. There was significant bear volume on the dump day yesterday, but it's more bull volume on the buying day today. So again, the more follow through we get, the more likely we can form a higher low on consolidation and try and change the daily trend, which has been in a bearish downtrend at this point for a month. Cron on the daily time frame. Again, we're going to look at the Canadian side of things. So daily time frame, our higher low has been established. Equilibrium setup on Cron right now. We have our high of the breakout from the rumor, our low of consolidation at 12.19, and now we're looking for a lower high compared to 15.67. Let's see if it's better on the 4-hour time frame. That's a pretty good setup. There's a resistance at 14.77. If we can't break 14.77 tomorrow, we'll look for the lower high to be set, and we'll need to consolidate and form a higher low compared to 12.19. So tightening equilibrium pattern on Cron. If I'm a day trader, which I am, and I'm looking around for the most favorable setups, I'm going to say, hey, that's a nice clear tightening pattern. I'm keeping an eye on that, because that's one that I'm going to want to play the break of when it does occur. So in its own little world in terms of correlation, other names are a lot more similar on the daily chart. Of course, Cron is not, because of the rumor hype that we had, but keep an eye on this equilibrium, and we'll be watching for a break of this, if not tomorrow. If we see the lower high and consolidate for a higher low tomorrow, then we're going to be looking for the break on Monday. TLRY, no trading yesterday, gap down open, and bulls bought the dip. Anything under 109.35 is just a lower high. So again, 10% into the last daily resistance level. Hourly time frame, a bit overextended. So again, heading into tomorrow, we can't just be all euphoric bulls, because we know hourly consolidation is needed in order to form a higher low for these bulls to remain healthy. And you can also be looking at the 4-hour time frame, because the 4-hour trends have to change for the bulls as well. So even just looking at ACB, we know a 4-hour lower high is very likely to form on this bounce, and we'll need the 4-hour higher low and continuation bull move for the bulls to prove it to us. Remember, we're in a downtrend on the daily, so we cannot give the bulls any benefit of the doubt. They have to prove it to us. So I would not be surprised to potentially see a little bit more bullish follow through tomorrow on these names, but the daily chart, we're going to be looking for these lower highs to be set, and the bulls are hoping that after those lower highs are set, we get some healthy consolidation to form higher lows and give the bulls the possibility to try and change this trend. So real quick to summarize, weekly trend is bearish, daily trend is bearish, short-term action is bullish. The hourly charts are a little bit overextended, so we want to be cautious of that. SPY correlation certainly there, big bounce day for SPY bulls. We're expecting a daily lower high on SPY. Perhaps our daily lower highs with Canadian MJ will correlate with SPY setting its daily lower high. Short scenario with APHA. Shorts are out of ammo. They have covered the vast majority of their position at this point, the shorting group, and they have probably switched bullish. You better believe that they know a bounce is coming, and they know that when they're out of ammo, that oversold bounce is going to get going. So I would not be surprised if they have a long position right now, or at least had a long position established today that they took profit on. But either way, APHA is going to come out with a rebuttal. That rebuttal is going to be priced in to a significant degree, in my opinion. And it's just a question of now, can the sector change the daily trend? And of course, if the sector can change the daily trend, that's going to be more likely that APHA can change the daily trend as well. At this point where we stand, again, I've said it a couple times now, but a halt for an investigation is a possibility. It is not likely. That's something to be aware of. The bears are out of ammo at this point, very likely, unless they've still got something up their sleeve, which I would be very surprised of. The question now is, how do we proceed going forward? Does this sentiment overhang inhibit the long-term bulls? And the answer is, so the market has already priced in all this action, but that doesn't mean disregard it. That doesn't mean that, this information doesn't mean anything, because there are some connections going on behind the scenes that are potentially giving some indications that insiders might have been lining their pockets a little bit. Either way, the company can definitely survive it, but it's going to be an overhang. So I would not be surprised that once we get this volatility, and we're going to form an equilibrium on APHA, we're going to top out on the daily lower high, we're going to pull back and form a higher low and have a tightening range. That's what happens when you have periods of large volatility. But the bottom line is, we could see APHA continue to be unfavorably correlated with the rest of the sector, which we've seen for months at this point. That's nothing new. But once this equilibrium plays out, that's what I'm going to be watching for. Is it still weaker than these other names, which would give us a little bit of insight that perhaps it is a little bit of lost confidence? In my opinion, what the board could do, aside from putting out a rebuttal, is distance themselves from, I don't even know what his name is. Is it Andy? I'm not really worried about the fundamentals in depth here because I'm not a long-term holder, but that's something that, distancing yourself and booting him from the company would also get a bullish reaction from the market, cleaning out the closet, so to speak, to a certain degree. So now the question is going to be, how does the equilibrium break that is very likely to form into next week? And we'll have that answer either towards the end of next week or early the week after that, which is Christmas week, I believe. So we'll see how it all plays out. Certainly never a dull moment. I hope you all continue to do good things. Congrats again to the bulls that were buyers of APHA today, and we'll see you all next time.